that better? The first item is the public comment period, and that's for anyone in the public that wants to speak to something that is not on the agenda. Something that's on the agenda, you will have a chance to speak at when that comes up. Is there anyone that would like to use the public comment? Okay. Next, we're going to a resolution, and this is for the broadband, and I was going to read it, but Sandy took it away from me. And this is a resolution requesting that the state of Rhode Island, in partnership with municipalities, develop a comprehensive plan to provide high-speed broadband access. Resolution number 22-153. Whereas the Warren Town Council recognizes that access to high-speed broadband is essential for both residents and businesses, and whereas the state of Rhode Island, with funding from the federal government, has the ability to develop and implement a plan to provide high-speed broadband, and whereas the town of Warren has completed a study of the Warren residents which indicates that 63% of respondents are not meeting the federal standards of upload and download speeds, and whereas the study also indicated a wide disparity as to fees residents and businesses are being charged while not having access to the federal download and upload speeds, and whereas the Warren Town Council, by this resolution, demonstrates their commitment to ensuring that residents and businesses will have access to affordable high-speed broadband. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the town of Warren, Rhode Island, that the town council, 1, encourages the state of Rhode Island to regulate the broadband service as a utility. 2, requests that the state continue to work with cities and towns in developing a plan to ensure all residents and businesses have access to high-speed broadband. 3, requests that the state ensure pricing transparency for high-speed broadband and that minimum federal speed standards are available to all residents. Could I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion, do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. Resolution passes. Okay, next we have interviews. We have numerous positions and I see no applicants for any of them. We have openings on the Affordable Housing Trust Board. We have an opening on the Economic Development Board, the Planning Board, the Tax Board of Review, and the Arts and Cultural Commission. And I'd like to appeal to anyone in the audience or anyone that's out there listening or watching on TV. Please come forward if you have some special skills or just some time to help us out. We do need some help on these boards. Everything works better the more people that get involved. So please, if you have time, come on down, help us out.
Motion to advertise.
We have a motion to advertise.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're at the minutes.
Motion to approve. I didn't see any corrections.
Okay,
Second.
this is for the August 9th regular scheduled minutes. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 For the executive session minutes on August 9th.
I saw no corrections either. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye, please
Aye.
pass them down.
The Book of Secrets, please.
Okay, next we have an ordinance, Chapter 7, Finance and Taxation. This is regarding the American Rescue Plan. We talked about it a little bit at last month's meeting, but I believe this is to set up so that we can actually disperse and report the money properly. Kate?
Yep, this is as we discussed at the last meeting, this is an ordinance that's required for housekeeping purposes so that we can be transparent with the expenditure of the American Rescue Plan funds and so we can be compliant with the auditing requirements for those funds.
This is pretty much basically supplied by them. We just need to,
Yeah, it's boilerplate language. We
okay.
don't have a lot of ability to amend it.
Motion to accept.
First reading.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the first reading and a second. All in favor? Aye. This will be back for second reading next month. Okay, public hearing number 1. This is for a transfer of a BV beverage license and vitrilling from Spindrift Hospitality LLC Chomp from 440 Child Street to Spindrift Hospitality LLC, Chomp Kitchen and Drinks at 279 Water Street. This is basically just a transfer of address. Is there someone here that wants to come forward on this? All right. first
Hey,
of
good
all,
evening.
Good evening.
So basically, you're just looking to move into the new space?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you complete? Are you ready to move in now or?
Not quite. We're about probably a month and a half away.
A month and a
Hoping
half
end of
away?
October.
All right,
So
my
it's hard to
question is
see.
gonna be for the solicitor. If we approve this, because he's gonna be in the old location for another month and a half, could we approve this and hold the clerk from issuing it until he's moved in and we get approval from police and fire and building?
Yes.
Okay,
In other words, what you can do is when you grant but not issue, it would be on that date when the move-in would be.
okay, great. Any questions from the council?
Public hearing.
Yep, this is a public hearing. Is anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak on this? That being said, could we have
Motion to
a,
close the public hearing.
we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the transfer of the BV beverage license and vitrilling license. We have the motion to approve it, but not issue it until the move-in date and the approvals by fire, police, and building. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, public hearing number 2. This is an application for a kennel license from Kelly Reiser, 26 Shore Drive, Warren, Rhode Island. Please come forward.
Good evening, council members. Attorney Brian Bliss for the applicant Kelly Reitzer. This is Ms. Reitzer's application or petition for a kennel license. More specifically, it's for the purpose of fostering dogs in the town of Warren. The reason for the license application is the petitioner currently already has and owns 3 dogs. So the fostering of the dogs would be above the 3 would be for a temporary purpose. Sometimes it's as little as 3 hours. Other times it's upwards of several months till the dogs can find a good home. The petitioners work with a Rhode Island Home Rescue, which is a entity which works with various kennels, dog pounds across the state to find homes for dogs. Alternatively, they're looking to maybe modify the ordinance in the long run to allow for fostering of dogs with more than 3 dogs on the premises at a time, because they are adamant about the care and feeding of dogs. The dogs, as currently on the property, do not have any nuisance issues. No, there have been some issues with complaints, but it only was brought forth when this application was filed. And just to be more specific as to their fostering of the dogs, like I mentioned, they have 3 dogs of their own. Anytime they are away from the property for more than a few hours, each of those dogs is brought to a daycare essentially for dogs. So there is no issues on the property or any issues with any noise during the day when they're not there to handle the situation. So they're asking for essentially a variance to the current ordinance to allow for the fostering of dogs.
Okay, I understand someone prepared a PowerPoint. Was it you or your?
It
client?
was my client, yes.
Okay, yep. So it's not a very, how long is the PowerPoint? 5-10 minutes?
I would say. it's not
Okay,
even-
all right, yep. Yeah, we got it all set up. Do you want to speak while it's going on or?
I would say we'll just allow it to
Okay,
speak for itself. Mr. Sarni can speak more specifically to.
okay.
Hi, I'm Rich Sarni. I just want to start that. When you rescue an animal, you rescue a soul. So if we can go to the next one. So I just wanted to quote the town ordinance when it says no person shall keep or harbor more than 3 dogs aged 3 months or older, whether or not owned by such person. It's just too constrictive. We were hoping to be able to foster, again, at our cost, not at anyone else's. We're not looking to make money. We're not looking to do anything. But we want to visit the language. And also, we have friends who have dogs. They come over and they bring their dog. Are we in violation of this if they come over and visit for dinner? If you read the ordinance, that's the way I read it. Next slide, please. So can we run this?
Hey guys, welcome back to Studio 10 on this Friday Eve. I'm Mercy Woods.
And I'm Mario Fario. The next best thing to being in the kitchen is being on the couch with some pups. Yeah.
So on Thursdays, we're gonna, on our trending segment, we're gonna try to bring in some dogs that are available for adoption. This is Nadine from Road Home Rescue. Albert and Bruiser, at least
Bruiser.
temporarily. are the
I mean,
names.
he looks
Aha.
just like Bruiser.
So
from-
Nadine, tell us all
about
about
them.
these.
Yeah.
So Bruiser Woods here is,
Oh my gosh, you already has my last name.
we guess that he's about 6 to 8 years old. He was in Providence Animal Control. He sat there for a month and then Providence called us and said, can we help him? Because he was terrified.
Aw.
And we pulled him out and found out that he's like the cutest, sweetest little wiggly bum you'll ever meet in your
He's a
whole
little
entire
teeny little
life.
baby.
Chihuahuas can be a little temperamental and a little nippy. He
He's
is
only
not
7
at all. He
pounds
is
and
like
he's
so
got this
sweet.
cute little boat.
Very playful, very good
He's
temperament.
A
He's
very
so
sweet dog.
handsome.
He's and he is up for adoption.
Mm.
He does need to be neutered and we'll take care of that. But other than that, he's
He's ready.
in good health.
He's a star, really.
He
He's a
is a
He's,
star.
look at him.
Yeah,
He's such a star here. I
we're
love
worried
he's
that
ready.
Elwoods might try to take him.
Well, I am the Elwoods of Rhode Island.
Well, there you
are,
go. Well, then you
so-
can take him.
I
And this guy
might.
is Albert.
And this is Albert, Prince Albert.
Oh, he is a prince. He's so sweet.
Prince Albert is he's
cutie.
from Arkansas and he is 1 year old. He is a Pekingese mix. We had his brother a couple months ago and we found him a home and Albert was finally ready to come up and find his home. Albert's a little bit scared of life.
Mm. He's just chill.
But he's not aggressive about it.
No.
He's just very, very timid. He wants to do this 24/7.
Yeah.
So if you have a lap that is like this 24/7, this is probably the greatest dog in the world for
Albert is
you.
ready for that lap.
That's right.
And how do people get in touch
Yeah.
with Road Home Rescue?
You can reach us at roadhomerescue.org. And we have applications right online. You can fill out the application right online. Pre-approval, you'll get your pre-approval letter. And if you decide to adopt one of these guys, you'll get a screener that'll contact you and set up a meet and greet.
That's
And
awesome.
it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You're so
Pretty
cute.
easy.
Hey, thank you so much. We gotta
Thank
find
you,
homes for
baby.
Bruiser and Albert. I don't think it'll be.
Look at that
hard.
face.
Look at
that
his face. I can't. He's such a star. I'm telling you.
He's going home with you.
I don't know about that.
Nadine, thank
Next
you so
slide.
much.
Okay, that's the rescue that we partnered with, and we purely just foster for them when they bring in shelters or shelter rescue dogs. So these are the facts, right? 4.3 million animals are in shelters, most of them in public shelters where the taxpayers pay the bill. 3.7 are euthanized through overcrowding. There are more animals than there are shelters. Next one. So these are the souls that we've saved to date. These are fosters that we brought in and they now have their forever homes because they were able to stay with us and then we found them homes. Next one. Few more. And so when we're not at home and both my wife and I have to go to work, we bring them to Crate Escape at our own cost. At our own cost. You want, all right, so go ahead.
Just to reiterate in that point that in no way are they looking to make money. This isn't a money-making endeavor. This is specifically for the caring and finding homes for the animals, the dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we ask?
questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just so we're tracking this correctly, both the applicants, they work full-time?
That's correct.
Okay. And you went 3 hours, from 3 hours to 7 months, Rhode Island Home Rescue, looking for them to foster. You had no nuisance issues. Were they unfounded or were they founded?
They were unfounded.
They were unfounded
The
to your
police have been-
knowledge.
The police have been called, to my knowledge, the police have been called and found no issues when they've gone out to the property.
And when they're away, you also say that you take them to doggy daycare.
That's correct.
Okay.
If it's for a full day of work, absolutely. If they're going for an hour or two, they wouldn't necessarily bring them to
All
daycare,
right.
but
Thank you.
How big is the lot that this property is located at?
John, I have a
Hang on,
question.
hang on 1 second, Joe. I'm gonna speak with the building official. Matt, can you confirm that this is a half-acre lot? I saw something about where it was a 5,000 square foot lot. Okay, yeah, could you do me a favor? Could you go check that? Because that's very, very important, the size of the lot. Joe?
Yes. You realize that the ordinance is for hobby breeding
correct,
specifically.
correct.
So you're asking for something that actually isn't allowed in the town of Warren, but tonight you're asking for us to change the ordinance. You're asking for a kennel license. You realize that it's already a moot point.
Yeah, but we're specifically
Okay.
seeking,
That's good. As long as you realize that it's not allowed
it's
at all in the town of Warren.
the
You
actual,
understand.
the actual fostering. There's no specific language in any ordinance that
Right, you
relates to that.
can't, you can have a kennel license for hobby breeding. So what you can have is in the ordinance. What you can't have would be a request to change the ordinance. So what's in the ordinance currently already makes your application invalid. So I
Sure,
guess I'm stating my position up front
absolutely,
because that's the ordinance.
correct.
So I appreciate your time and I'll let everyone continue on.
Brant, anything to say before I open it to the public?
No, I'm good.
Carrie?
Yeah, the size of the lot is
Yep.
a,
0.246 acres. What's that come up to the square foot?
What is it? Point what?
0.246 acres. How many square feet is that?
So that would be like a-
42,000, so it's probably about 10,000 square foot, roughly.
No, a little more. Was it? Yeah, 0.25 would be a quarter. Yeah, so that's 10,000.
All right, sorry, Carrie.
yeah, I was just curious about the size
Okay.
of the lot in the area in the yard that the dogs have to.
Sure, there is a good sized backyard. I can't say specifically how many square feet it is, but there is room for the animals to run and exercise.
I mean,
They are supervised when they're outside as well.
I have plenty of thoughts and questions and everything. I don't think we're ready to.
Yeah, I'm
make-
gonna
get
open it
that
up to
part.
the public and then.
Yeah.
And then we can ask our own, we can confirm with the chief about the complaints that Councilman Calendar asked about. Okay, are you?
I'm
Good
done,
for
but
now?
there are parties here that wish to.
Yeah,
speak
it's
on
public-
behalf of
okay.
the applicants as
Public
well.
hearing, so I am gonna open up this to the public now. How many people would like to speak on this matter? Please raise your hand. I just want to get an idea how many we're gonna have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got about 5. Okay, so I'm not gonna, as long as you're reasonable, I'm not gonna throw a time limit on it. If we had 15 people, I was gonna put a 3-minute time limit, but we've got a reasonable amount. And just remember, try not to, if your neighbor said something already, try not to come up here and repeat it because we already heard it the first time. But I understand it's gonna get maybe a little heated and a little testy. Let's just all remain respectful. Speak to the council, don't speak to the applicant, don't speak to other people. Do not yell out from the back. If you have something to say, come down and speak here, okay? That being said, I will turn it over to Mr. Cox first.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
President, members of the council. I'm Attorney Bruce Cox. I'm here on behalf of Jane Lawson and others, but specifically retained by Jane Lawson, who's a resident of 29 Shore Drive in Warren. I have a copy of the petition, the original of which has been given to your clerk. I mentioned this to the solicitor previously.
Thanks. Did we get this?
Yeah.
Did we
Oh,
get
you
this?
do already have
Yep,
copies
we
of
do.
that?
We've got all of
That's
that.
what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah, thanks, thanks.
This is the biggest file I've had in probably 5 years on the council.
Couple of times.
In looking at the ordinance, it says one shall not keep or harbor an animal, 3 dogs or more without a kenneling license. So it's driven by definitions. What is keeping? What is harboring? And when I looked at the application, it's interesting, they use the word foster. When you look up the word foster in the dictionary, you always find foster children, foster parents, foster homes. You don't find fostering of dogs. So it causes me a little bit of concern about what is the definition of fostering and how do these connect? And as I fully agree with Mr. DePasquale about the fact that the ordinance doesn't allow for fostering. Fostering is in fact keeping. And when you dig into the various definitions, give shelter to, offer to, that's a harboring of an animal. And then when you look into what is fostering is to provide care. What is care but care and feeding? And when you look into synonyms of what is to keep, you're talking about care and feeding, conserving. So all these things tied together that you cannot have a kennel where you want to have more than 3 animals in this ordinance without a license. Fostering is in fact keeping, harboring of dogs. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's an honorable thing to want to do, but it's got its limits and they're exceeding the limits. They're at the limit now with ownership of 3 personal dogs. You have the petition of 31 people in that immediate area saying, no, it does not work. They were very respectful, quite honestly, when council probably, as we've been sometimes set up by our clients, said, no, there's no issue. No one was arrested. No police filed a complaint. People had complaints. The police went down there. They were respectful because they understood that they are all here. That entire back rack of people are here because they object to this. And they could come up, each one of them, and say, object, object, object. You have that in writing before you. They're trying to alter the ordinance. You can't alter an ordinance. The ordinance is clear on its language. You cannot harbor or keep dogs more than 3 unless you have a kennel license. And at a 1/4 acre, at 10,000 square feet, it just doesn't work. It's difficult to get a license when you have far more space if you're anywhere in a residential area. I'd be curious about the issue of looking at the zoning ordinance. I know you can have a daycare in a manufacturing zone, and I was the one who brought in the first doggy daycare into town in a manufacturing site. I got laughed at for it, but that was allowed because the animals were kept within a confined building with soundproofing and everything else. This is someone's backyard. They love animals. I love dogs too. I don't think there's a person, there are undoubtedly people here that don't like dogs, but vast majority of people do like dogs. The fact that there are kennels and that there are sites where these dogs are going to be euthanized is a horrible thing, but there's nothing we can do about it, not in the confines of this person's yard, not in the confines of the Highlands area. It just doesn't and would not fit. To pass this would be ludicrous. There are a couple of people that do want to come up and address these very specifically, but I was asked to come up and generally address these issues for the neighborhood on behalf of by Jane Lawson.
Thank you very much. And we did get all of the letters that were sent in. We've all read all of them. So we do have that input. Okay, who would like to be the next one? Please come down, state your name, your address, and
Right there.
The guy in the blue shirt.
I don't think there's anybody else for us. But now I'm not accepting it. I'm just gonna let them all come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bill Corab. My wife and I live on 30 Shore Drive in Warren, and we are immediate butters to Kelly Reitzer and Richard Sarnier. Okay, Sarni. I went through the whole neighborhood and had a petition signed by 31 different people. And I would just like to read to you what the petition states. Says on September 6th of 2022, the Warren Town Council will have a public hearing to review the request from Kelly Reitzer, 26 Shore Drive for a kennel permit to allow up to 6 dogs in her house. She currently owns 3 dogs and would like to have at least 3 additional dogs. Over the last 3 months, there have been 3 to 4 additional dogs until this hearing. We, the undersigned, as neighbors, believe that this is a violation of Town Ordinance 3-37 to allow more than 3 dogs in one household. It creates a nuisance, a cleanliness issue, and a threat to first responders to allow this. We live in a small residential neighborhood with a narrow street, and any dogs getting loose can endanger young children or others out walking. At this time, I would like to express the acreage issue that you have been talking about. I live next door and our acreage comes to 0.29 acres of land. Our neighbor's acreage comes to 0.23 acres of land. Remember that half of that property is taken up by a house, meaning that the backyard that these dogs live in is not a 1/4 acre. We do not want a kennel in our neighborhood, nor do we want any household to have more than 3 dogs. Town Ordinance 3-37 reads as follows, and I know everybody has heard it. It says, no person shall keep or harbor more than 3 dogs aged 3 months or older, whether or not owned by such person, except when such person is a hobby breeder of purebred dogs holding a valid kennel license issued by the town, subsequent to a public hearing being held by the town council. None of the dogs currently are purebred. Additional dogs are not owned by the homeowner. A kennel license requires that the person must be a hobby breeder of purebred dogs. We, the underside, request that the town council not approve the permit. Our attorney, Mr. Cox, has given the town clerk a copy of the original statement. I want to just read a couple other statements to you. Said this is a small residential neighborhood on a small, narrow dead-end street with no sidewalks and is not zoned for business like a kennel. The houses are built close together with hardly any front yards and mostly driveways. These owners barely have a small lot of land, no side yards, with a small house and what is left is a barren small backyard. The house is built approximately 10 feet from the property line and an open picket fence is on the property line. The neighbors installed the picket fence with every other picket missing. They had 3 dogs and started to add more. We sit and use our backyard a lot, and with this picket type open fence, the dogs will line up and even hang on the fence looking into our yard. Whenever anyone is out on either side of the yard, the dogs will see you, bark and growl like crazy. Whenever they are let out, they are barking, growling, fighting, and then additional smaller dog that they added will start yelping and crying because it sounds like he is hurt. Sometimes the crying continues until the owners come out to break things up. These even occur sometimes even in the early morning around 5:30 to 6 o'clock. If they cared about the neighbors, they should have installed a solid fence. Other neighbors have also mentioned the dogs getting loose. There are small children playing in the street, riding scooters and bikes, and many others walking all the time. Lots of neighbors walk their dogs on the street too. We worry about the depreciation of our property value. We are concerned that a kennel will devalue our property as well as the other abutters and make it difficult to sell. The smell, especially with 6 dogs the last months with very hot days and no rain, smell is especially overbearing for both abutters. We use our backyard, again, right there next to their yard. We also have open windows and we do not have central air conditioning. Lastly, we do not want any repercussions because of this hearing. Thank you.
Hey, anyone who wants to come next? Come down.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Cookson. I live at 28 Everett Street in Bristol. I'd like to speak on behalf of Kelly and Rich.
Okay.
I didn't prepare anything, so give me a moment. I met them about a year ago at the Warren Dog Park. We had adopted my dog about the same time they had got their 3. And, you know, you can imagine thinking you get 3 dogs, you're like, these people are going to be a little bit of crazy. But they're wonderful with their animals. They treat those dogs so well. They treat my dog, they treat others and members of the audience right now, their dogs like their own. I do believe that you may be bound by the language of the ordinance, but whatever is decided here today, it is definitely something to think about, of that hobby breeding really only adds to the problem of fostering. That adds to more dogs, can add to more dogs in shelters. That to be able to have somebody that wants to open their home to take these dogs in, to care for them while we learn about these dogs, while we try to find them a new home, that to set them up for success. And the more that we foster, the more that people can foster, you save lives, 2 lives at a time. You get a dog out of a shelter, out of, you know, my dog came off the side of a street in Arkansas himself. You get a dog out off the street into a loving home, you get to send them on their way and open up more room. So it's, again, I understand that whatever may happen here, I think it's definitely worthwhile to look at the language of the ordinance of how you can wrap fostering in. It is becoming a larger concern, a larger need that's in the area. That maybe if anything that can happen tonight that gives you a push to kind of look at that language.
Thank you.
John, can I just say one thing?
Yep.
For
You're not on yet.
the solution to what you just requested is don't own 3 dogs and you can foster up to 3. So don't look at this in other ways. For me, I'm speaking for me. This isn't about anti-fostering. This isn't about judging the work they do, whether it be good or bad. It's whether somebody moves into a house next to somebody, looking at the rules that exist and have the confidence to understand what can be developed, what can be done, what is on the books. So just like when somebody looks at a neighborhood where someone's requesting a commercial zone change, usually that's denied because they moved into a residential neighborhood. So when neighbors move into a neighborhood, they know that somebody could have up to 3 dogs. So that's okay. It's when you get over that, that's the issue. So please, you know, just I want everybody just to look at what it is we're looking at. And I do appreciate their good work, but that's not what we're looking at.
Ma'am?
My name's Joan Olson. I live at 2 Summit Drive. I happen to be one of the folks who's not on a small.
Move the microphone a little closer.
Okay, I'm not on a small lot. My lot is approximately 1.2 acres. And it abuts all of those lots. I have 8 neighbors. So when I look outside on an evening when Rick and Kelly are home, I can literally see in their living room from my chair. And I have no problem with noise. They rarely, if ever, have dogs outside making noise. All day long, those dogs are gone. I have 2 dogs of my own. I know that if dogs got loose, they'd want to come visit other dogs. That would be the place they'd want to hang out. They have never once run into my yard or around my yard. There's a picket fence that's 6 foot tall, that circles their backyard, certainly sufficient for dogs that are at home 3 hours a day. For dogs that are indoors all evening, are away at daycare all day. My dogs are not that nice. Come on by. If they're here and barking, it might be mine, but I only have 2 of them and they're purebred. So does that put them in a different category? in my mind, it's not a matter of there's 3 dogs you can have and can you foster 1 or 2 others? And Mr. Pasquale, I would take you on head to head over a drink, over the guidance of, well, we can't do that. Well, who can? This town, here's town council. They're here to ask for permission to foster 1 to 3 dogs. If this isn't the place where someone can set precedent for the town, not just for Kelly and Rich, it's a matter of community, because what goes with them needs to go for every household in the community, whether it's on Main Street or it's in Twisted or wherever in Warren. If we can't come to this committee and say, examine the problem, examine the wording, and determine whether or not it's feasible for 2 foster dogs to be cared for in superior care. Now, there's no way for you to monitor superior care. I monitor superior care because I see out my door. Believe me, my neighbors have no idea how much I see. But what
They do
They do now.
they might when I'm done. But what I'm saying is whatever precedent you set with this case, you set for the entire town. And if they don't take it here, who do they take it to? Because we're ready. I mean, there's the challenge. I mean, do you write a waiver until you've had such time as to examine the wording and between you determine what the wording should be and whether or not this should be allowed or should not be allowed? Yeah. I say you table it for 2 months or for a month, and you take and you go back and you do a genuine survey of Warren residents, not of Twisted residents, not of Shore Drive residents, of Warren residents, because whatever you decide with this case is the same with all cases in Warren and has to be dealt with them equally. And so, I mean, look. And I think in the meantime, a stay of execution, literally, is what you're voting on. If you say, we'll come back and in 2 months, we're going to gather information. We're going to go through it as a team and we're going to decide what happens. Or we're going to waive it because they really don't want a kennel license anyway. What they want is the right to foster animals. And you received my letter. They're vet checked. They've got their shots. They don't come over the fence, though I will say Bo is a little big. He's their dog and he's a sweetheart. But my dogs will look at him because he'll, instead of barking, he'll growl at you. He's not coming over the fence. He's a dog. He doesn't have any bad feelings towards anybody. Maybe people on the other side of the fence do, but I don't know. With that, I strongly suggest that you take some time and not make a decision tonight. Make it a quality decision rather than I have 31 people here. Because I think if you put it out and gave people the time in the community, there'd be 300 people on the other side saying, Warren thinks it's okay to foster dogs. Because I don't think Warren has a hard heart. And it hasn't been opened to everybody. It was someone walking to your doorstep with a petition. And not saying it's not for a kennel. Making you, my first thought when somebody said kennel was, I thought, major business. This is not a major business. This is somebody who keeps 2 puppies in the bedroom. I mean, at some point, we all got to get a life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Steve, that's what you have.
You need another one?
All set, thank you. You want to go next? Yep, I'll get to you. Hello?
Thank you.
My name's Jerry Rosenberg. I lived on Shore Drive for many years. I first met Rich and Kelly when they were walking a dog who had terminal cancer. And they were fostering him so that this magnificent animal could live out his last few months in a loving home. And I thought to myself, we should all be that lucky. I also thought these were people I wanted to get to know. And I'm proud to say that I have been lucky enough to get to know Rich and Kelly and find that they are genuinely interested in helping man's best friend not be slaughtered. I've also gotten to know their dogs, and I've never had a problem with them. I've never seen them off leash. I've gotten to know their foster dogs. I've never had a problem with them. I've never seen them off leash. My dog has gotten to know their dogs, never had a problem. And it's because they do take great care of the animals that they own and the animals that they foster. I know that this is a neighborhood that, quite frankly, is a little incestuous, and that Kelly and Rich are considered outsiders, but they still own a home here in Warren. And I also know that what they're doing for the animals that they fostered makes the world a better place. And it makes Warren a better place. And it makes me proud to be from Warren. I want this council to know that I certainly support their petition to be allowed to foster animals, our dogs, because it's something that we can all learn from. And if I'm permitted, can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Okay. I'm not very political, so I don't quite understand everything.
Neither is Joe.
But I'm just curious if you've ever voted for a building variance.
Well,
No,
he didn't
I'm not
serve
on the
on
zoning
zoning.
board.
He didn't serve on zoning.
Because
And 2 months ago, I denied a kennel license because they already had too many dogs. So their heart was bigger than the ordinance.
I understand
If
that.
you want to
What
foster dogs,
what can,
have less than 3.
Joe,
I mean,
yeah, I know, but we'll get, yeah.
Well,
It's precedent.
are you-
We're talking about precedent.
are you suggesting that they give up their dogs? Is that what you're
I'm
suggesting?
suggesting that when somebody has the opportunity to foster, they should look at the environment, the laws they live in, and the neighbors they respect, because they may not be able to, because the rules and regulations would prevent them.
So maybe I asked the wrong question. Do you
Could be.
believe in building variances?
I'm going to speak with the specifics tonight. I believe in changing an ordinance. I believe in the process. I know it's on the agenda, and I know tonight there's not a request for a change in the ordinance.
Okay, well, I understand that. I guess I'm asking the question because it seems to me that variances are approved all the time.
They're denied all the time as well.
I understand, but it's not like they're never approved.
But the reason I wanted to specifically speak about an exact was we had a case a few months in front of us, because she's speaking of precedent. Precedent's been set. We had to tell these unfortunate people that they had to get rid of one of their dogs. They did.
Well, thank you for your time.
Answer the gentleman's question.
Yes.
Talk about building variance. The zoning ordinance specifically provides that the zoning board can grant a variance. Unfortunately, with this ordinance, there's not that option for the town council. That's the difference.
Unless they change the ordinance.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
But they're not going to change the ordinance for kennel. What I think is being proposed is the ability for people to foster. And if I can just answer one question, I'm sorry about this. The gentleman asked if someone comes over the house with a dog, does that violate? That's the answer to that is no. And that goes by the state laws, because the state, at Title 14, Chapter 9, Title 4, Chapter 19, governs this situation. You would be considered under the state law when you foster a dog as a guardian. And the state law equates a guardian with an owner. So if somebody comes over your house for dinner and they bring their dog, they're there with the owner. They don't step into that position. Okay?
And also visiting is not harboring. Harboring is,
No.
harboring is, in other words, the dog lives here.
That's correct.
Visiting is not harboring. That's the definition of harbor in there. But
Thank you for your time
Okay.
and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
please come down.
Oops. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Cindy Corab. I'm the wife of Bill, who was up here speaking. And it seems like everybody's talking about this whole thing with the dogs. And we've had dogs all our lives and everything too. This is like just gotten so out of hand. We live literally right on top of this house. Their property line and their fence is built right up close to our house. There's like 50 feet, and then there's our deck. We've had to put up screens. We've had to put up a temporary fence screen because this is what it's like living next to these three huge dogs. They got two in particular that, and this crap about they take them everywhere, that's just something they started recently because, okay, it's hot weather. We don't want them out in this barren backyard in the hot sun. So they have central air, which is great. They bring them in. This is all recent. They had two puppies here that they, if you talk to the dog officer, they had to get them out because the law again, you don't bring in puppies when you have 2, 3 full-grown dogs. And this is the kind of thing. Every morning they'd come charging out of the house and they bark and they yell and then this is when especially the 6 dogs were there. Now, okay, maybe they only have the 3 dogs right now. And, you know, okay, they can afford, they take them out to these daycares. That's great. This crap about they go out, they leave the dogs in the house a lot, just like we have 2 small dogs we leave in the house a lot. And the neighbors can all tell you they're on the front window banging and barking and going crazy. Everybody's watching to see if they're going to come crashing through. Again, their driveway's there, the street is there. They go out many times and the dogs are loose. One they can't get. It's, again, if you contact the dog officer, they've been contacted by some of these neighbors that are here tonight that their dog is loose. I'm just trying to show that, you know, they act like, you know, the neighbors don't get along with them. Why didn't they put up a solid fence in the first place? And none of this would have happened. This neighbor who lives behind them is fine. She has a house and a big stone wall on the other side of this picket fence. She sits on the other side of the house or in her air conditioning all day. We're out there sitting in our yard. We have an above ground pool. We're using it. We have gardens. You know, I never see these people outside during the day, especially in this past summer when it's been hot. They're not the ones having to experience this. And the other rebutter, she's here tonight and she has the same problem. She cannot go outside. You've all have seen the pictures. We've dropped off photos, videos, the dog fights. I mean, there are times that those dogs were all out fighting and then they're growling, they're barking. And then all of a sudden, like my husband briefly said, one gets bitten or something, you hear, yap, 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 yap. you know, and then eventually they come out and they call them in. Now they're more conscious of it because they put up tarps. They know we took pictures of them. They put the tarps up illegally on the wrong side of the fence. Now we have the building code enforcement there.
I don't want to speak about any other code enforcement issues. The only thing we're
Well,
here
I'm just
addressing
trying to say,
tonight
we
is the
have
kennel
tried as a
license.
neighborhood to
Yep.
welcome these people. It's been just constant little things and their attitude is they swear back at us a lot. You cannot talk to them. And now they come up with all these other things that we're going to call the police on this. We're going to call, the police told me the same thing. Call me every time they're harassing me. He stands at the fence yelling at me at times. And then, of course, my two old dogs, one who's on his deathbed at this point, you know, can't hear, can't see. Of course, he's protecting me and barking. And he says, oh, it's all your dog's fault. My dogs see you hanging on, their dog's hanging on the fence. They're not supposed to bark, you know? And she says she doesn't hear this. Well, I'm sorry. She's inside her house all day because you can't. How about 5:30 in the morning when they let them loose? You know, this is the kind of thing the neighbors have had to deal with. And particularly the dogs getting loose. There's little kids riding scooters down the street. There's little kids riding bikes and elderly people walking their dogs. You know, it's this crap that they take such great care of their dogs. I just want you people to realize what we've been going through this past 4 months, especially. That's why it's too small of an area, too small of a lot for more than 3 dogs. They should have done this in the beginning before they came home with 3 dogs all at once, too, after their elderly dog passed. You know, if you were going to do this, well, how about thinking like my friend did? I have one dog at home. She took in a dog and would foster till that dog got adopted. You don't start out with 3 dogs when that's the state law, you know, and that's not just Warren, that's everywhere in Rhode Island, by the way, because we've done our research. So I'm sorry, but I had to get that out.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else out in the public care to speak? You've already
spoke.
you've already been up here, sir.
Step back down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone
Come
else?
back.
Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Carrie Giogo. I live on Green Street. I actually foster for Road Home Rescue. I've saved 75 dogs in the past 6 months to a year. I think most of the dogs that come in are 2 months. I ended up taking a litter in last November, and I had 10 little puppies in my home to take care of them.
Did you say Bridge Street? I don't know if you want to actually be telling us this.
They all got adopted. They're all in their forever homes.
Give you
And,
one day immunity.
but I did it because it teaches my kids what it is to care for something. I have 3 kids. They all live in Warren. They all go to school. Most of my daughter's an avid member of our rescue, to the point where she got community service that she wouldn't even get for playing soccer or doing anything for the school. She sought this out and she wanted to do this because of her love for animals. And I understand that the ordinance says 3 dogs, but it's like babysitting because these dogs aren't theirs. These dogs are under the rescue. These dogs are not even dogs, they're babies. So would you say the same thing if you were fostering a human? You could only have 3 humans? What's the difference?
Well, there are laws that would limit the amount of people could go into a living space. In other words, you couldn't put 400 people, or you couldn't put 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. There are minimum housing standards that would not allow you to do that. So there are laws that do regulate that as well.
But what I'm trying to say is these dogs aren't theirs. These dogs are rescue. They're under the rescue and they're not allowed to go. They're not ours until you actually fill out an application, sign a contract saying that this is something that you're willing to take care of for the rest of your life. I pay nothing to foster. The rescue donates everything. And they give us everything for us to be able to get these dogs or puppies ready to be in a forever home. Most time I've had a dog is 12 hours, not even. The most I've had a dog is probably 3 weeks. My last dog I had for a month because was partially blind and partially deaf, and he had muscle issues in his back hind legs. But finding that perfect home, he's on a canoe in New Hampshire. So it's like, you're basically babysitting these puppies until they find their homes. So I just want to make that clear when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Paula Flam. I live at 17 Shore Drive, and I'm new to the neighborhood. Been there about a year and a half, and I have to honestly say I feel like I hit Powerball just living in that neighborhood. Everyone is very close and very welcoming and friendly, which is tremendous. But I guess I have 2 questions. If this does go forward, is there an insurance policy, say if these dogs were to get loose and attack someone in the neighborhood, are they covered through insurance? Because I've walked by their house a couple of different times earlier in the summer, and the dogs literally jump at the window trying to get out. It's a little intimidating for my wife and I. We walk the neighborhood frequently. And then my second question is regarding to the fence. It's a slat fence instead of say like a chain link or stockade fence. So are there any rules if this does go forward that they would improve the fence and the structure just for the safety of everyone in the neighborhood?
Well, I'm going to answer both of those for you. Number one, there's nothing that actually allows this.
Okay.
So if it did go forward, we would have to change the ordinance and we could put those requirements in the ordinance.
Yep.
But there is nothing that says,
But
there's
currently,
nothing that says if you have a dog, you have to put a fence up.
Right.
Absolutely nothing, whether it's.
And as far as
So in other words,
insurance-
if this did go forward, depending on what the flavor of the council is, then
Yeah.
all of those requirements could be put into the ordinance change.
and the liability issue
or
as well?
The liability issue could be addressed in that. There's nothing that says if you have a dog, you have to have insurance.
Right. I'm just
Okay.
wondering if they get out and
Right,
attack
but
my
that,
grandson.
but
or
that could
whoever's
all,
playing
that
in
could
the
all
street.
be part, if we do go that way, that could all be part of the licensing and the requirements.
Okay.
But, so.
Great. Thank you.
Looks like the solicitor would like to address that.
Just quick. Typically what happens is the homeless policy would cover.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
There's a lot of case law. What's that? A lot of case law. No. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Lori Taylor. I live at 184 Water Street. I just moved there. However, I was on Church Street for the last 12 years. And I absolutely love Warren. I love the community and I love the dog park. It has been such a great addition to the Warren area. And all I can say is that I agree with everyone about what wonderful people Kelly and Rich are. And all I want to say is, please don't break their hearts and change the audience. That's the best thing you can do.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, and I want everybody to realize that whichever way the council goes on this, it has nothing to do with how we feel about them as people. It has nothing to do whether we think they're great people, they're great dog owners, or they're bad dog owners. That has nothing to do with what's in front of the council at this point in time. So at this point in time, I would like to ask.
Motion to close the public hearing?
No, I
want
still
to
got
go?
some testimony
Oh,
I want to
okay.
hear. First one will be Chief, do we have any reports do we have any reports of complaints and founded or unfounded at this property?
We do. Mostly they came in the last month and a half.
Okay.
August 27th. They probably had 5 dogs. Most of the complaints is kennel license.
Okay.
We have one parking complaint. Most of the complaints that we receive, that I have here from 2020.
2020 or 2022? 2020.
Oh,
So
222, 22, 22.
No, yeah.
2-year
what-
period.
So over a 2-year period, How many complaints do we have?
Some of them don't.
Thanks. And my next question is going to be for our code enforcement officer. Matt, do we have anything strictly related to the animals? Do we have any open violations on this property? Okay, but it's not animal related. Okay. Any questions from the council to anybody that gave us evidence?
Nope, no.
Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Motion to deny the request based on the language of our ordinance and the information provided this evening.
I'd like to have a bit for discussion first.
Absolutely, if we don't. Yep.
So I hear where you're coming from, Joe. I just want to kind of shed a little bit of light. I come from a strong zoning background, and I look at this as a zoning issue. And in zoning, the residents that live down in Shore Drive, if you were in an R40 zone, we would call those legally non-conforming because the houses were built in the 1920s and the zoning laws didn't really exist back then. And then when the zoning laws came into existence, you were automatically in violation. So if you ever wanted to do something on your house or on your property, you would end up before zoning. And that's where I sat for many years. And the zoning boards are created to grant variance. However, they go on the merit of the application. And that's what I'm looking at on this, is the merit of the application. So if I was to move forward with this, I would be putting conditions forward. Trial basis, one animal for a 6-month period of time. We're not changing the ordinance. We would be allowing this application to move forward on a trial basis and then revisit it if need be in 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, or whatever the case may be, to make a determination on whether or not this actually is compatible to the neighborhood. Because truth be told, I can't make that determination just based on some folks signing a petition and making a determination on whether or not one neighbor sees 3 dogs or one neighbor doesn't see any dogs. I'm not satisfied with that. I would need a little bit more for me to be able to put the X on that square and say, no, this isn't compatible, or yes, it is compatible. With that said, the police department has identified that they had complaints. Some of them were unfounded. Some of them were at different residences. The dog bite was the actual applicant that's before us?
Yes.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Some of the complaints here was actually all the years, so.
All right,
Sometimes
so-
they just all say
And to just answer one of the other questions that came in is that we would be setting precedent. Actually, zoning issues, there are no precedents. They're all based on the application. This is the way I look at it, is this application lives on its own, regardless of what comes in after or came in before it. What I would be doing is basing my decision on the application that's before us. So I understand there's a motion before the council to deny based on the ordinance.
Yeah, there's no second yet.
Yeah.
So, Grant, Kerry, anything on Joe's motion or anything in general?
I mean, in my mind, it's pretty obvious. The application is for a kennel license, and what they're asking for is not a kennel license. They would like to foster. And I think fostering dogs is a wonderful thing. And I just recently adopted a dog that was really home to my, and I have a yard. And if somebody in my neighborhood wanted to foster up to 3 dogs, I would think that was a wonderful thing. But considering the density of your neighborhood and the overall feeling of the neighborhoods, I don't even think if fostering language were to be considered as an ordinance, which would be a down the road thing, I think there would be a lot of sort of guidance and guidelines and parameters that would ensure the peace and tranquility of all the neighbors. And I think it's a really hugely important thing that you are doing, and I thank you for it. But I don't think that it's probably right for the neighborhood that you're in.
Carrie, can you put your microphone on, please?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I can, maybe I can't.
Hold it down.
Hold it down. Show turn screen. Yeah, good.
I'll use this one.
Yeah.
Yes, anyways, it would appear that given the letters and the comments from your neighbors, that this is probably not the ideal neighborhood to do such a thing. Maybe there are neighborhoods in Warren that would be ideal for it. Maybe there are lot sizes that would really work, but it doesn't seem like yours is one. And that's not what that's not even what this agenda item is about this evening. So, there's no way we can approve this evening, or I don't think that's the direction we're moving in, to approve a kennel license. So you can start breeding purebred dogs. I don't think that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to save animals that are already alive and out there and homeless and in jeopardy, which is a great thing. So it's unfortunate that it's going this way. I did take the opportunity to drive by yesterday and really look at the proximity of the houses and the fences and whatnot. And, from the car, sure, everybody is really close together and on top of each other. And I can see how maybe the neighbors might have objections. And I even drove up and around and behind to see where your neighbor lives behind. Hi, lovely property there with the big stone wall. Yeah, it's great. Maybe you should be fostering, but yeah, 3's the limit. So yeah, this is not an indictment of the what you're trying to do as good people. It is simply just not appropriate for where you are, and it's not what we're even considering this evening, so.
Great.
Well, I will echo much of what Councilwoman Cronin just said. Fostering dogs is admirable. It pulls at everybody's heartstrings. It's again, a wonderful thing. I own a rescue dog myself, so I support those efforts. But as she said, as Councilman DePasquale said, that's not what this is about. It's about the ordinance, the fact that it's not allowed. I also take into consideration, what the neighborhood has to say. I did join Councilwoman Cronin on that drive yesterday to look at the neighborhood and get a feel for it. And I understand there's close proximity issues here. I've had some of those issues with dogs in my own neighborhood. I live downtown Warren on a very small street. So I understand how much of a nuisance that can be, and I have to take that into consideration. But again, that's not even really what we're considering tonight. So that's my position. I respect what you do, but that's not what this is all about. If we want to change the ordinance down the road, if there's a petition to change the ordinance and we decide we want to go that route, well, then maybe we will. And I don't think we can allow this going forward. So,
okay. Yeah, I want to commend you for what you're doing. It is very honorable taking in the dogs, but there's a reason why 3 is the number. There's a reason why that's pretty much uniform throughout the state. I had 2 dogs on a 16,000 square foot lot, and I barely had any grass, and if I didn't pick up the poo every day, it would have been pretty nasty. A 10,000 square foot lot is maxed out with 3 dogs. If you had a much bigger lot, where you were a little further away from your neighbors and the density for the dogs was a little bit more reasonable, I could kind of see where you're going, but you're putting 3 and you want to put possibly up to 3 more on a 10,000 square foot lot. That's just not good. It's not sanitary, in my opinion. It's too dense for the population. The other thing is, I do agree with Mr. DePasquale. I don't think we can pass this license legally. because you're not meeting the requirements. What it would take would be an ordinance change. Doesn't sound like the council would be willing to do that, but you could always try to do an ordinance change. But under the current ordinance, I don't think we even have the power to allow you to do this.
Stanley, could I just clarify one? thing, please?
Absolutely.
For the record, I have no problem fostering dogs. I encourage it. It's helpful. It allows people to do something. You could do it with less than 3. Making that point clear to everyone tonight. This is not an anti-dog position I'm on. And again, it's interesting. 2 or 3 months ago, we denied a kennel license for the same reasons. I don't think the research was done properly to bring this forward. It came forward, that's fine. I'm not getting pulled on the heartstrings. I'm not getting pushed in a direction where I may or may not be looking at enough information. Do what you want to do with under 3 dogs. Do it, love it, and give it your all. There doesn't need to be an ordinance change in the town of Warren. State law is 3 dogs. Foster dogs, have less than 3. My motion stands, motion to deny.
We have a motion.
Based
Mr.
on the
Diaz-Balart,
information
we have a second
provided.
By Mr. Hecker to deny the application. Did we close the public hearing already?
Yes.
Yes. All right, all in favor to deny the application?
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
4-1 is the vote. Now, I do code enforcement for a living in the city of Pawtucket, and I'm just gonna give all you neighbors a little bit of advice. I can't do it where I work because I have to answer to the higher ups. But do not let this balloon into a place where you don't want to live. Make up, get along, figure it out. Because the last thing you want to do is go home and say, oh crap, I got to see this person again. You don't want to do that. I see this happen so much in Pawtucket where it like ruins neighborhoods. Because one thing leads to another, and then this one complains about that, and this one complains about that, and this one complains about that. And then the whole neighborhood is up at arms and they don't like each other. So just work it out, figure it out. Because it's the last thing you want is to come home and have to deal with anguish like this. So that's just a little bit of advice from somebody that sees this an awful lot. So thank you. It's not allowed, no matter how much land they had. Over anywhere in Warren, dogs can be fostered as long as the total amount does not exceed 3. Anywhere, without even coming to us. When you get over that magic number 3, where you have to come to us. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is P1. It is a request for a mobile food establishment, and it's Kay's Ice Cream, Rick Leandre.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Very well.
So what do you got?
We have a frozen lemonade and frozen novelty treats that we sell. And we're going to be doing it at the Co-op Festival.
Sounds good. Sandy, he's got all his state licenses. I see it right in front of me. Yep, very good.
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
See
Thank you very much, folks. Have a
Bring
good
You're welcome.
samples next time.
Okay, next we have P2. This is for a mobile food establishment as well, and this is for Blount Clam Shack, and it's Todd Blount.
No, Lisa,
Is Todd here?
is Lisa Benby here?
Is anybody here representing Blount Clam Shack? Sandy, were they notified about this? Yeah?
Yeah, she's on. Lisa Benby? No?
You want to continue it to next month? I don't really have a problem approving
Motion to
it.
continue?
I don't have a problem approving it. If
What
anybody
is-
wants to go to approve it.
What are they asking? for?
Mobile food establishment, just so they
To
can move
renew.
their truck around.
To renew, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll second
We
that.
have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Considering I saw it drive the other day, I figured.
Okay. P3, we have another mobile food establishment, and this is from Gordito's Snow Cones. John Baleste.
How do you say it?
John Balesti, Gordito Snow Cones. Thank you everyone for having me first and foremost, and good evening.
Good evening. So I don't see yours attached here. Sandy, does he have a state license that you know of?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Motion approved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
You had to sit through all of that.
It was pretty interesting.
Civic lessons.
Okay, next we have P4. This is a request for a tattoo license. And this is from Saila. What did I do?
Celia.
Tattoo
Celia.
Studio. Hello, how are
Hi.
you?
Hi, my name's Lauren.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you. So,
Um,
go ahead.
I'm just looking to open up a private tattoo studio, so it would just be Unit 2 in 654 on Medicom. It's already a commercial building. It's basically an office space that I would just be asking the health department to come in and certify as a private studio space.
Okay. Have we taken a look at it, chief? Yeah, okay.
Motion to approve contingent on the solicitor, the fire chief, and the police chief, and anyone else.
I reviewed the tattoo. Chief of police has to make a statement to the council of good moral character. of the applicant. And that is in the ordinance. So I did communicate this afternoon, and, as you know, the chief is.
Yes.
And he needs to make the statement.
Okay, chief, please speak to us.
And this goes back to what, 1890? I know, but how old is this? Isn't
Basically, chief, basically you do a BCI check.
Her moral character and good standing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a prerequisite.
Are you?
Okay, so we have a
related to the Kogans
motion.
and Warren?
I'm sorry,
Are you related to the Kogans and Warren?
the
Bill?
Kogers in Warren?
Yeah,
My father, Joseph Koger,
Your dad
he's-
is Joe?
he's a teacher.
okay, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, I'm my separate person though.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Teacher of the
I-
year.
I thought you were Joe's dad.
So motion. to
Yeah,
approve.
yeah,
Motion to second.
everybody knows
We have a
who he is
motion
for
and a
sure,
second. All
so.
in favor?
Aye.
Good luck. You're all set.
Thank you very
Just
much.
make sure any paperwork you need to do with the clerk, square that away, and make sure you get the chief involved.
Tell Joey
The
so.
fire chief for the inspection. Okay,
That was
next,
5 girls provisions.
P5, vitrilling license, 5 Girls Provisions, DBA Wedge, 279 Water Street. Hello.
Oh, ladies.
Hello, give us a little rundown on what you're looking to do.
We are looking to open a cheese and specialty food shop.
I thought we already gave you a license.
No.
No.
No, it's another one? Oh, nice.
No, this is
Same one?
59.
Yep.
It's the old Muse.
Okay.
Cheese and specialty food, sounds very, very good. Now, is this a brand new venture, or are you coming from somewhere else?
Brand new.
Great, great. Any questions from the council?
So you're gonna go into the space formerly, that was formerly Muse.
Yes.
Next to Chomp.
Yes.
And so your experience in the food industry,
None. We're learning as
We're
we go.
learning as we go. cool. And what are the hours that you intend to keep there?
Not definite, but we're thinking Wednesday through Saturday around.
Do you need to go to zoning?
I did because we needed to change the.
You did go to zoning.
Yeah.
They haven't gone yet? Oh, okay.
What? I filled out the form.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't had the hearing yet. You
No.
filled out the application.
Do they
Yep.
need relief, Bob? They do. They need a special use permit? Okay. So you're gonna get those questions asked to you again about hours of operation.
Right.
I'm, as a small business person on Water Street, my advice to anybody who is going into business for the first time is to establish hours, be consistent, stick to them. Doesn't matter that maybe it was slow, you're gonna close an hour or two early. Doesn't matter if you feel like it's a beach day and you wanna go get some sun. Choose some hours and stick to them. It's advice, and I give it to you from experience, because people will not come back if those hours are not adhered to. So just pick what you can really manage and bring the best possible product and service possible. That you can.
I do have a question. So you do have to go in firm zoning. And will you be doing seating? No seating. It's all to go. Okay. So I was just wondering about the parking issue. You know, if That's gonna, that'll be incorporated into the zoning, I believe, hearing.
Did we ever change, I'm getting us, maybe I'm getting us, I know in Pawtucket, we have the CD zone where parking is totally waived.
Well, we took parking out of
Didn't
the,
we take it out of the waterfront?
No, you got village business.
Oh,
Village
okay,
business,
all
okay.
right, yep, okay.
that's not gonna be an issue.
You guys correct me if I'm wrong. The calculation. Plates not, they're not gonna see.
Yeah, so it's on.
The square footage of
On
the building.
employees.
Is for employees
Sure.
and the amount of square footage on the inside. But, there have been special use permits granted on Water Street structures that did not have on-street parking.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah, that,
Actually, maybe that's something we may want to consider, the parking requirements in those tight areas, because
Well,
you can't create them out of thin air, so.
And I mentioned it because it was a big.
Is it? Okay.
It was a big issue when the CHOP was approved,
Right.
and there was much discussion about it. So I just, and that you're within that parcel, so I'm just, again, I'm.
Sorry to sidetrack on you.
No.
But do we have?
It
do we
is
have-
all related.
Yeah,
but-
do we have a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good luck. to
good
you.
luck, ladies. When you looking to open up?
November
November,
22.
no, November 1st,
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
That's TBD.
Let us know.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, next we have correspondence. There is one I would just like to pull, C3. It's the resignation from Perry D. Lorenzo. I would like to send her a letter of her thanks.
So moved.
And I believe we already have that position advertised.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business, OB1, discussion and action regarding cost and funding for citizens request management and alert, the GoGov. This was from, where am I? I'm on the wrong page. Going too fast for myself.
This would be cool.
Yep. Okay, this is from a Kevin Strauss. Kate or Sandy, who wants to speak on it?
Sure, I can address this, and apologies for the late memorandum that was on your place when you sat down. As you received in your packet, the cost on this has been adjusted downward thanks to our town clerk. I don't know what she did, but he came back with a lower price, which is very helpful. So in front of you, you'll see both a sole source memo and also a memo recommending that we go forward. The total cost of the subscription for both app subscriptions would be $9,600 based on the revised proposal. The funding I'm proposing to take out of the Department of Public Works outside services account, since the bulk of the product will be for the Department of Public Works, as we discussed at the last meeting. And then this is a year-to-year contract. So as the solicitor pointed out in his review of the contract, we can cancel at any 12-month period. We just need to give 60 days notice. So funding for the next 12 months after this 12 months would go through the budget process for discussion by the council. If it's not working out well, if you're not happy with it, then we don't have to continue it past the 12-month period that would be funding at this time.
Okay, yeah, we did talk about this quite a bit last month. So basically, do we have any questions? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve and authorize the council president to sign contract.
I do have a question about the 7% clause increase per year. Is that comfortable with that?
It could be 7%. I would expect that, it says it may be 7%, so I expect that would be
Up
part of.
to,
Right.
yeah,
So I think that would be part of a
Might be able to-
negotiation, and we'll just send Sandy after them and tell them that we're not happy with 7% and that we need to bring that down. Again, we're not locked into it. If they come back with something that's not palatable, then we'll have to reevaluate.
For 7%. $800?
Well, it's,
Am I wrong?
no, it's, it's,
Yeah, but if it goes up, we'd have to reapprove it.
yeah.
Right, this will have to go through the budget process next
Yeah.
year.
They can go up to 7%.
10% would be $960, right? Is that what we're talking?
Yes.
What you can do to protect yourself, just get the 60-day notice of term. That gives Sandy the opportunity.
Yeah,
you,
so,
you have the ability to do.
Thank you for the info, Grant.
Hey, did we ever get a second? We got a motion, I think, didn't we?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is OB2, discussion and action regarding the license and indemnification agreement with Bristol County Water. This has been on our docket, I want to say, for at least 3 months in a row. And hopefully the solicitor is going to tell us that he is satisfied at this point.
No, I'm not going to do that. Boldly. Unfortunately, what happened is, and if you take a look at the minutes that you approved, Bristol County Water Authority was supposed to make the necessary changes and send them to me. They didn't, and by the time the channels got through, we have the agreement back from Bristol County Water, but it just never got to me.
Okay, continue it till next month.
Yeah, I really want that, yeah.
Okay, all right. We have a motion to continue it.
So move.
Second.
second,
And if I can just say that it's not Bristol County Water's fault, it's my fault. They submitted it to me and I completely didn't forward it to Anthony.
You didn't
so.
have to fall on your sword, Kate. We didn't know.
It's okay. I just want to be clear. It's not, certainly not Anthony's fault, but it's not BCWA's fault either.
Okay,
I'd like to publicly state I don't blame Kate on this one.
okay. So it's Tony's fault. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
OB3, update and discussion on action on the added space contract. I believe I'm going to hand this one directly to the solicitor.
Okay. This matter was actually approved last month with 2 contingencies. The liability corporation charter had been, was revoked, and if that was cured, that has not happened yet. And in fact, we have a communication from the company saying that this paperwork snafu is taking longer than they thought it does. And you know, it does, it takes time. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2, however, is although Addaspace, from my research, they are, how can I say this? They're eligible for MPA consideration, which means that if they land a municipal or state contract, they would be eligible for other cities and towns to avail themselves of that contract and go forward. They don't have any existing contracts with which the town could attach. And I don't know how that happened, but there is none. There is a MPA for modular structures, but it's not with this company. So on those 2 counts, you can't go forward, in my opinion. Now, if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, please do, but that's what it appears to me.
So we would need to make a motion to void that agreement, or does that automatically void itself because of these 2 things?
Well, you know, I took a look at the minutes and there were 2 contingencies there. They have not been met. I wouldn't mind if you took a motion to rescind, but also I think what you need to do at this point, and not let the manager take it, but I think you have to put an RFP out for this, just so you can keep the ball moving forward. And you know what? Addaspace can submit a bid.
I have a few questions. Mr. DeSisto, since what you've determined to be invalid, moving forward, should we make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, yes.
And do you think it would be best if we list the MPA number on the agenda every month or on every project?
Correct. You know, I think what happens with some of the vendors is what you need to do first is apply for this. The way that the master price agreement statute works is that if a city or town or the state, or in fact, sometimes other states, if they enter into a contract for goods or services, then you can be on the MPA list. But the vendor has to qualify for it first. And I'll give you the example. City of Providence gets 15 police vehicles. Chief Ward just takes a look at it. You know, he's got in the budget, he can get 2 new police vehicles. That's a good price. He can go forward on it. You don't want to have a vendor that won't be able to satisfy the additional people, the additional communities that are coming onto that bid. So you have to be eligible first. It
That would
seems-
be the contract number, not the ID, not the vendor ID number.
That's correct, yes. So what you need to do is to get the contract number, which I understand from my research you can do. So that's probably something that you need to have done and put on your agenda, so at least you know that there's a contract out there that you're hooking on to.
We should also, so this doesn't happen again, have the supporting MPA documents included in our council packets, so that we already know that this has been verified. Because I'm kind of questioning how this even happened, because this has been going on for so many months. And it unfortunately seems that we all assumed that this was vetted out.
Right.
And yet, with research done, it wasn't. So do you think those safeguards will be enough to secure us down the road?
Yes.
I make a motion that we rescind the contract. Can I make a motion if I was in the,
Still have some questions?
no, if I was in the opposition?
Oh.
That doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I
That
don't
doesn't,
think
that
it
doesn't,
matters.
that's not an effect.
Yeah. Wait, I don't think you want me to make a,
Any?
I make a motion that we.
Well, I think
Wait,
Ms.
wait.
Cronin said she had more questions.
I just have a couple of questions. So, all of this aside, if we put out an RFP and Addispace submits a proposal and another architect or outfit submits something that we prefer, what are we into with?
Whichever
Brand
one we
new.
choose.
They don't even have a
but-
business license.
But, yeah, I know. But we don't have any outstanding invoices with them? Are we clear with them?
Well, I'm gonna get to getting the 15,000 back, because we paid a company that doesn't even exist.
I
Joe.
think I was going down that road.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're there tonight.
Yeah, so how, and what about the deadline for spending this grant money? Is there any, the clock is ticking on that. So we've got an amount of money we need to spend on a project. And now with all of the time that's going to take to get the new RFP, is that an agenda item for October? And then it takes a couple months out there, and then we get submissions, and then we decide, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're at the deadline.
Well, I think-
As long as we have a commitment to a project.
I think there's a question.
Those are questions I can't answer, but I think Kate can.
I think my interpretation of how this would move forward is we already own the design. The design already exists. We could go to RFP with the existing information that we already have. And that would enable us to move quickly. Obviously, we want to try to get this work done under the deadline. I don't know if DEM would extend. I don't think we should count on it. I think there's a good likelihood that if we don't have at least significant progress by that deadline, that they could pull the grant. They've done it in the past. So I don't think that it's a good bet to assume that they would extend the date.
Right into the RFP.
And actually, the other question, which I didn't hear the answer to, did we already pay them $15,000? And the other second half of that is, what's our liability or our chance of getting that back? That would go to Anthony.
I don't know if the invoice has been paid. I'd have to check that. I mean, the designs exist, so the work's been done. But, as far as clawing back, that wouldn't be an Anthony question.
Well, Could I ask a question? How can a company that doesn't have a business license, that didn't bid on a MPA proposal, a price agreement, it wasn't there? So they're not legally entitled to what they've already done. Right? Isn't it a moot point that there isn't a master price agreement? They're not on the list. There isn't a contract.
I would prefer not to answer the question in public because it would disclose litigation strategy.
Okay.
I just,
Another question, is this the proper agenda item for us to, or should I say, can we ask the EM for an extension tonight with the agenda item that we have here?
You can't do it based on the wording of the agenda because this is just an update.
Can that be administrative?
But I think that's something that can be at least asked for administratively.
Does it need a council action?
No.
I think maybe if we just keep them abreast of what's going on.
Well, we should ask them outright.
Well, let them
Yeah, we're in
say,
the
hey, we
process,
ran
we
into
had
this
this.
problem, but I still think we got time under the deadline.
Right, we have till next June. I don't,
Yeah.
I expect even if we asked for an extension at this point, that they
Yeah, I
wouldn't give
think
us
we
an
still have
answer.
time to do it.
When's the deadline?
It was next June.
Yes.
Yeah.
End of June.
Yeah, so I mean, if we keep them apprised, we don't have to go, we
Oh,
don't have.
next year.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I
Alright.
think we still have, and if we get closer, that would be the time to approach them and say, hey, listen, we had this snafu, this is why we're backed up. What can we
One
do?
more question, if I could.
Of course you do, Joe.
Well, other people haven't spoken. Yeah, I don't know
I
if
got
they
you.
want. When we spoke about the design though, and we're not held to that, we're gonna go out for a request for proposals for the 3 buildings that we have. Because I think that the design was kind of putting us in a, like, I don't want those boxes.
Well, I
Is
think,
that what you're speaking about, the design of them?
I mean, I think we have a plan that was approved by the council. I mean, if the council wants to go back and scrap that
Well,
and open it
we
up
have a
again.
plan
then-
that's approved, we have the location, we have the site plan that was technically approved, so we
Right.
could go with the same site plan, and we get an RFP with different types of buildings at the same site
That's
plan.
what I
Right.
want. I
I
want
mean,
to
we
be
can
able to
always do
open up
that,
to
yeah.
all architectural firms to submit their
Right.
proposals.
But
Yeah, we
I,
approve.
I would not suggest starting over again with regard to where those buildings are located. You know, obviously there can be adjustments, but I wouldn't open it back up again, you know, carte blanche, starting
I
all
mean,
over
we can
again.
Oh, yeah, that
There's-
Use
location.
the site plan,
Yeah.
where we just get different
But
designs
not-
for the building.
Right, I want
Right.
to open it up and say, I mean, 2 years ago was a different calendar, was a different everything. I'm hopeful there is going to be more
So
submissions.
We won't be restricted to that.
Right.
Is what I think
Hoping that's the answer,
Yes,
yeah.
and I agree.
Right? I mean.
Yep.
All right, good.
Steve, anything?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Anything else? All right, so Joe, you got your first part of your motion was to rescind the
Correct.
agreement. Second one would be to
Go out to
go
bid.
out to RFP for the design of the buildings the council has approved.
For the
Yes.
whole construction, all of it. I mean. I
Correct,
think-
yeah. In other words, any, pretty much the location and the site layout, but the design of the buildings,
Is wide
is
open.
wide open. Does that sound good?
Yes.
And which particular buildings will be in the RFP?
The ones that we approved the
Bathroom, the
locations of. Yep,
concession, and the office.
yep.
I'll second it.
Just before you vote, I just do want to say one thing. If you had said, look, we're going to go forward with this anyway, the town would be exposed to some liability for that because, the,
Right, we violated the.
Yeah.
The proper bidding procedure. All right, we have a motion
And a second.
and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have Finance Director, Revenues and
Are those two
Expenditures.
separate motions?
No, we can all be in one, right?
Can it be in one?
Yeah. Revenues and
make sure.
expenditures, Fung was excused for tonight. Does anyone have any questions on revenues and expenditures?
No.
Okay. Tax assessor, addition to the 2022 tax roll. We have one addition. in The amount of $845. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the 2022 tax roll in the amount of $845.57. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, next, planning and development, approval and adoption of hazard mitigation plan.
So I sent in your packet a summary that FEMA had done with respect to the plan. As most of you know, we're required every 5 years to update our hazard mitigation plan. We worked with Kim Jacobs, who is a consultant from Barrington, and she did a wonderful job putting this together. We also took the extra step to include a flood mitigation plan. The way that FEMA works will over time earn points that people that are in a flood zone will eventually see a reduction in what their flood insurance premiums will be based on steps that we take.
Nice.
The document itself is well over 400 pages. I sent you a link this afternoon if you're so inclined to cure insomnia by reading the 400 pages. But I think that, the summary from FEMA does a pretty good job of highlighting, some of the strengths of how we approached it. It's given us some guidance with some of the things we need to do. I think we're addressing a lot of those anyways through Markets Medicom and some of the other resiliency things, but it is important. It's been approved by FEMA. It's been approved by REMA, but in order for it to go into place, we need the resolution. This will enable us to also access some other FEMA funding related to resiliency and flood mitigation.
Okay, do we have the approval for the resolution and the council president to sign the resolution and regarding the hazard and mitigation flood plan?
Yes, put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Number 2, discussion and action authorizing the Director of Planning and Community Development to negotiate lower cost options with McMahon for the downtown parking plan.
Right, so I had brought this to the council previously, and you decided you didn't want to move forward with that. But I think over the last several months, we're seeing that, addressing parking, particularly in the downtown area, is going to require more resources than I singularly can provide. And I'd like the opportunity to go back to McMahon and say, can we break this down into more manageable pieces that we can afford and start to address this? I mean, I can tell you in the intervening period, we are close to entering into a shared parking agreement with St. Mary's of the Bay. But there's many other pieces that have to come together for this. So not asking you to approve a contract, just giving me authorization to re-engage with them.
Any questions?
No, this, like I said,
No,
this is
not-
just, oh, yeah.
I have a
Yep.
question. Mr. Rulli, are we going to ask them specifically for what we want in this? Or-
I think, one of the things we need to get is an accurate inventory of what parking spaces are available. And then, I think, since we got their response and we interviewed them, the St. Mary's of the Bay has become available. So I don't know if that's valet parking or how that's going to work. I mean, I have an idea of some things I would like them to look at, but, I think one of the first steps is we need to talk to the restaurants about their employee parking during the day, encourage them to park where there's public parking. So there's a myriad of things I think, I have on the table that the committee that we had that interviewed all these firms in the beginning had on the table. I just want the chance to re-engage with them on this.
Well, I guess I want to fine tune my discussion point questions. I would like to hear professionally input on residential parking. 20 years ago, I started that and it was shot down, all over the place. We've brought it up every once in a while, but it's always in conversation. I think we need to, hear it from somebody. I think it could be good money spent. And I also think that the idea of the church is great, but I also think we have other lots. And I know it's a little bit of a ride, but I know if I had 10 employees and they had to park up at the high school, the middle school, and that was how it is, you'd get them to work, you'd figure it out. I don't know, it's in their own best interest. We get rid of 150 cars on Water Street that are employees. People are gonna be happier. I'm just saying that I.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
I want them to come in and really
Yep.
look at.
I mean,
at the town.
I make the argument to the restaurant owners that if you could park at the Park and Ride, if you're in Providence and you could be as close from the Park and Ride to Water Street, you could park all day for free, you would do that. I think it's just acknowledgement of that, making people aware of there is plenty of parking around.
It's the mindset. Are they gonna interact with us before you?
They can,
I believe he said he's gonna give them a shopping list to break, you're gonna break out certain.
Right,
things and
one
see
of
if
the
you can get
things,
price lists.
to your point, Joe, one of the things we've talked to restaurants is, we go to resident sticker parking. I lived in Newport. that could be a good thing. It could be a really bad thing.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think all of those things are on the table, absolutely.
All right.
And if your preference is before they engage in this, that they have a meeting with you, I mean, I'm fine with that as well. I mean, I think that would be useful.
You know, a public meeting and let them hear from the town. We'll put them on the agenda before we give them the con. Is that possible?
We could put it on,
invite them in.
we could put it on as a presentation, right?
Correct, yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense to have some professionals who've got vast experience in this area give us ideas and feedback about what we're thinking about, because we want to go down the right road, obviously. If we're going to be shuttling people, if we're going to be requiring resident stickers, I mean, we need that feedback on a professional level. And I think that's what you're
I
suggesting.
mean, there's our best case practices
Correct.
throughout the country.
And we also need that inventory of how many spaces we really have downtown. Which ones are actually legal spaces, which ones are not? Does yellow mean parking? Does yellow mean whatever is working? And then once that's identified, enforcement of the actual parking. I mean, that's an issue too. Is it a length of time? Is it a number of cars that fit into a specific, if there's 20 feet, how many?
The traffic advisory group looks
Okay,
forward to
yeah,
that
you've got your
conversation.
work cut out for you, but I think this is really crucial information that we need, and I think there could be some really good feedback from my council.
All right, so do we want to authorize the town planner to negotiate with McMahon? It's not going to cost us
So
anything
moved.
unless we agree with it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 3, update on Warren Boulevard and Central Avenue Drainage Improvement Project.
So we have 2 drainage projects going on. We have one from Warren Boulevard down to Main Street, that culvert that runs to Alfred's. That is through a DEM grant. We are about to start that. We've had some pushback from an abutting property owner that had signed off on a DEM petition application. We think we're going to resolve that, but that is moving forward. That will be completed before the end of this month. The second project is Central Avenue, where we've also had flooding that has impacted houses on Central Ave as well as Seymour. We have applications into DEM for that work. We just got notice last week that the Army Corps of Engineers now wants to review that project. But we are moving forward to address that. That project, talking to Mr. Wheeler from Public Works, we feel like the actual construction of that can be done with Public Works, but we need to get through the permitting process with DEM and now the Army Corps. I think the Army Corps review is pretty short, but there's no way to circumvent that.
A question. Do we have the money budgeted for that project without DPW doing it?
We moved some money from another grant that we had along the bike path to this project. So yeah, we do have that money.
Winter's gonna be here before you know it, and our storm preparation is pretty lengthy in the town. And I would hate to see us over there working and the rest of the town I think we're spread too thin. I think if we have it budgeted, I think it would be best, in my opinion, I've been here a long time, best to have a company come in, do the work, and let our DPW continue on the work they do in town. I mean, our drains are bad. I mean, I'm not gonna go through the list, but
I think past experience has shown us that when we've gone out to bid for these projects in this economic environment, it exceeds what we have for available funds. I mean, this is really just, there are some existing culverts that are there that have never been maintained on a regular basis. We plow the streets, we plowed silt into the culverts. It's not a real heavy lift.
so we're not like building a detention.
No.
pond.
We're just basically
All right.
clearing those culverts out. And Mr. Wheeler and I have talked about it. I mean, if I thought we could bid this out and get it done, but I'm not sure that we could get that done quickly either, and given the environment we're in.
All right, I guess I didn't have enough information in front of me.
And I get calls weekly from neighbors in that neighborhood that.
How did
I
we
live
make out
there.
with this last storm over there? Anybody?
We only got less than 3 inches of rain as of this morning. So, I mean, we did pretty well, but I was truly expecting some calls on that. And it doesn't take that much rain for that to be a problem over there, honestly.
It just all comes, it doesn't turn the corner over there.
So I thought I remembered there was a gentleman at one of our meetings asking us.
Yeah, he came in and.
For Souza.
About,
Yep.
Yep.
you know, our new system would be helpful to, to announce these things to the neighbors.
They all know. They call me every week.
Good. Well, he was specifically asking for information about how this was going, so it's great to inform.
Yep,
him.
I
And our
will.
new system will help with that, right? The GoPro system, right? Be able to send it right out to all those neighbors, which is great.
Okay, next we have number 4, discussion and approval for the town to enter into a design agreement for the fire rescue headquarters with Secotio and Associates.
So we had discussed this at our last meeting with the firm from California. They were not on the master price agreement. This is just for the design element of this project, doesn't obligate us to work with the California company that wanted to finance this. There is an existing master price agreement on 494, which is for architectural services. I have verified that that exists. We had allocated, or you had allocated, I'm sorry, earlier up to $350,000 in pre-development funds through the ARPA funding. This agreement is for significantly less than that, but I remind you that we need to move forward with the funding that we received through Senator Reed's office and the USDA to keep this project moving forward.
Okay, Bob, the question I have is this would still meld with that company from California?
Potentially, or we could go with somebody else.
Okay,
And we
all
could
right.
decide to finance it in a different way. We could bond it, but at least we're getting the design done.
Motion
that-
approved $49,100.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
The Scotia and Associates Rescue Unit.
All in favor? Aye. Public Works Director. Discussion and action, looking for a facility lift replacement. At the amount of $20,000. What is a facility lift replacement?
It's an 18,000-pound lift for the vehicles. in the
Okay.
garage. Pretty straightforward. They're on the, they have a Mass State contract. I included the number there.
Okay.
We have 23,000 allocated, so it's within our budget.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Number 2, discussion and action to enter a 36-month price lock with I3 broadband upgrade DPW. We did discuss this a little bit last month, I believe. Yep. Any questions from the council?
Motion approved $162.35.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Number 3, discussion and action for $20,250 to have Beta Group Inc., the pavement management scans with the LiDAR, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Will they do sidewalks as well?
So they'll do, it's in here somewhere. I
I
forgot.
thought
the-
it said it. That's why I'm.
There's a
asking.
distance they do past that, which
It's
will
like 50
include,
feet.
it'll include the sidewalk.
Because we have I keep listening. We can never get them back. There's Water Street has pavement on concrete. We have so many, and it's not our fault. It's our fault for not holding the contractors
Utilities, yeah.
accountable.
Correct.
They'll cut, they'll do it, they'll put asphalt, but it was a concrete sidewalk.
Right, a
And
lot,
if
a lot of
it's-
times in their excuses, they like to put the asphalt for 90 days to let it settle so the concrete won't
And I got a
crack, but they never
5-year
come back.
I gotta, yeah, I know.
So can I ask what the
Just
scan,
Mishu
the
calls.
scan does, like, actually what this does?
Yeah, so they're gonna scan all of our roads in both directions and give it a grading system from 0 to 100. And that'll give us an impartial view on what roads are terrible and what roads are good. So
Did they go
instead of
below
us
0?
making judgment calls on what roads should we pave next, this is gonna help build our 5-year plan as well as save us money, because they're gonna tell us what we should be doing to each road. If it doesn't need to be completely milled down and paved, or if it just needs a, chip seal. So they're gonna give us the data that we need to make the data judgment to save money in the long run. So we're not paving stuff that shouldn't be paved. We're paving it just because we got a lot of complaints about it. Not everything is gonna be that way. They're gonna take into account usage of the roads, whether it's a main road, a neighborhood road.
And it's gonna be in a GIS map.
This will.
And it's
it'll
gonna be the
open-
pictures
Yep.
and visual as well.
Correct,
So
and
it's
it'll
gonna
be
be able
open
to
to the
find
public,
things.
and they'll also come in afterwards and give us a presentation of what they came up with, so you guys will get
Budget time, we can prioritize finally, target.
Yes, and given the cost right now of pavement, it's a good idea for us in our reset year to just spend the money to get on track. And it'll give us an impartial view on everything. So there's no favoritism to any roads.
And this is coming out of one of the capital accounts.
So come out of the paving account for this year, which was already very low to just kind of get us to.
So Beta is they're a management company and they do analysis. Do we have a pavement contractor?
So Beta is an engineering firm and they're one of our on-call engineering firms. So you remember several years ago, we went out for bids and they're one of our on-calls that we have a contract with. So we do not have a paving contractor at this time, because we don't have a paving list. We've exhausted our previous paving list. We completed all the items on that list. So what we would do then is, once we have this 5-year plan in place, then we can go out to bid and get accurate numbers from bidders to go forward and budget for the actual work that needs to be done.
And so then what's the timeline for all of this to happen? And then when can we start attacking those prioritized roads? Because
So-
there are many.
Correct. Given when they can start, he didn't give me a start date. He said he was gonna try to, they have equipment of their own. They also have a company they utilize for their LiDAR scans. He would try to move us up the list knowing that I already talked to him about it. They're gonna try to do it in the next few months, he had mentioned. He didn't say exact start. It
It's
takes-
not weather dependent.
No, it's 2 to 3 months from start to finish. It'll take them about 3 days to actually do the scan and then about 2 months to 3 months to actually put it all together into the files for us. So the hardest part is that scanning.
Yeah, we'll definitely have it by next budget sequence when we're getting ready to do the.
And that's the
paving.
plan. And we talked to him about that. Like, we would need this before we go out to build our next budget. Like that's.
And it'll also be able to have, like, the idea I was saying about all of our crosswalks. So many of our crosswalks are chopped up. So they'll be able to find those and then even give you a judgment on the rest of the road.
Right.
So we find a line where we could do that section, not willy-nilly. All right, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I care. You do care. I do care, and this would buy 50 feet of road, so I'm comfortable spending the motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
contract. We have a motion to approve $20,250
$20,250.
with the Beta Group for the paving assessment. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the town clerk, discussion, action, and approval for the Permidium Vital Detector. We spoke about this last month, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Send a picture of their license, self-addressed envelope. Get it to us, then we send it. This will give them the ability to run all the information in. If they want to, finance, fill it all out.
So this is free to us.
This is. I use it. Feel good about it.
They've agreed to it, but the final one that I have, the language hasn't changed yet. Okay,
Well, we'll make the motion pending approval by the solicitor.
that's fine.
Can we have a motion to
Motion
approve?
contingent on the solicitor's approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Good night.
Just missed 9 o'clock.